Jen, I want to start with the latest in this idea of a bilateral summit ahead of a trilateral summit. We're learning additional details on where that could be held. Are we getting any details on a timeline here?
Yeah, also for the bilateral summit, which, let me just take you back for a moment. The president had originally discussed having a trilateral summit be the outcome of yesterday's meeting with the European leaders. In the end, he said that the actual plan now is to proceed first with a bilateral summit between Zelensky and Putin. The timing on that is a little bit uncertain. It's not quite clear when that will happen. Germany's chancellor indicated that it could happen within 2 weeks, and the White House press secretary just indicated to reporters that Trump is scoffed at the idea of waiting 4 weeks for a meeting. So we've got at least some indication that folks want to get this done in the next couple of weeks. There is some reporting out from Politico today that Hungary and Budapest specifically has been scouted as a possible location for a trilateral summit, one that Trump would later join. But no details have been confirmed from the White House at this point. And right now, there's still just an effort to get these talks to occur. One important note is that a Russian aide to Putin last night said that Trump and Putin had only discussed the very idea of a bilateral discussion. The White House press secretary told reporters today that, in fact, Putin had promised that direct meeting.
Yeah, Jennifer, maybe expand on that point. Give us some of the context here about just the reality of the relationship between Zelensky and Putin and whether a bilateral meeting is actually realistic, that we would see that, just given their relationship.
It would, of course, be remarkable. But then again, yesterday's meeting at the White House of all these European leaders who flew to D.C. On barely a moment's notice was also remarkable. What's notable here is that Trump has repeatedly said some of these details are so sensitive, they really need to be hammered out by Ukraine and Russia, that they really can't be dealt with interlopers. And Zelensky, certainly seemed supportive of this yesterday. The talks are ongoing between U.S. and other and Russia and Ukrainian officials to get these going, according to the White House press secretary today. So at this point, it does look like this is the next step. The bigger question probably hanging over this, or one of the bigger questions, is whether the fighting in Ukraine will continue and whether the European leaders' efforts yesterday to encourage Trump to once again embrace a truce that he says is not necessary to broker peace, to get that back on the table.
Hey, Jenna, I wanted to shift gears a little bit and talk about security guarantees here and what exactly security guarantees would look like in the context of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, especially in an environment where obviously the U.S. over the last 3.5 years has not sent troops to the area. Would it be a UN peacekeeping force? Would it be a NATO peacekeeping force? What would it look like?
Right. I mean, security guarantees were really the biggest topic of discussion. They loomed large in yesterday's talks. Ukraine and European allies are wanting to ensure that any peace deal now doesn't lead to a Russian incursion in the future. And Trump has made clear that, these security guarantees are a possibility in lieu of Ukraine joining NATO. He reiterated this morning that Ukraine joining NATO is not tenable from Russia's perspective, but the U.S. has discussed these NATO-like security guarantees. So what could that look like? Well, Trump is saying it's not going to be American boots on the ground, and he's been very clear about that. It's been reiterated here at the White House today. But the president has left open the possibility of American pilots and aircraft being involved in providing some air support in the region. The president has said, if there are military forces on the ground, that's European countries that would supply those ground troops. And of course, we also have President Trump very proud of having brokered kind of a deal for America to sell weapons that would be financed by or purchased by European allies to be used in this conflict. That's the kind of arrangement that could also continue.
Is there appetite for European leaders to send their citizens to that area of the continent?
Well, Trump certainly made clear yesterday that he sees any kind of on the ground presence coming from Europe, and he's drawn this line in the sand about American support. What we heard from European leaders was this united show of force. In wanting to end this conflict, and as Emmanuel Macron emphasized, we want peace now. We are committed.
What do we watch for next? What are you going to be monitoring for next as we kind of await this potential bilateral meeting?
The biggest question, one of the biggest questions right now is does this bilateral happen? When does it happen? How quickly does it come together? I mentioned the commentary from Russia last night that suggested this might not be as baked a plan as certainly Trump's Truth Social post last night had indicated. That would, that has created some uncertainty over the next steps in the process here. So really seeing any indication that bilateral summit is going forward and going forward quickly, I think is the biggest thing we're watching for. We are looking, of course, for the evolution of any possible financial deals tied to these discussions and tied to security guarantees. And of course, any discussion around the form of these security guarantees, very much still after yesterday, a topic of lively ongoing discussion between Russia, between the U.S., between Ukraine and European allies.